out over your new book for a minute and have you share about that to our audience. So I read your book. I think shortly after it came out, absolutely loved it. In advance of this webinar, I was like flipping through again, like, okay, what were some of my favorite parts? And yeah, I mean, it's just, you really have shared so many of your stories and wisdom into it. And I just love the application to on-court, off-court, like I was mentioning, I think a little bit earlier in this webinar, like with the communication piece and how, really how important that is to tailor that to, whoever it is, whether you're the, and even on the flip side, I thought like, okay, if you're an employee and you're a coach and you're talking to your director or, vice versa, everything is like, okay, what's the best way to communicate? That's so important. And then I was rereading the chapter on resilience, and I was like, wow, like that's really right on. And I don't know if I'm going to get this stat correct, but I think it was something like you referenced the Grand Slam that Roger Federer won, and he won 55% of the points, I think it was. And it's like, which means he lost 45% of the points. And when you think about it, like 55%, that's like just a little more than half. Like, so the sheer resiliency to have lost that many points and keep coming back. And then the same applies in life. Like, you're going to try a marketing strategy, launch a product, a new idea, maybe there's, a coach, a director, they're going to launch this new clinic idea for pickleball or something, and it might do amazing or it might not. It might take some time or it might take some retweaking. And it's like, I think resilience, that's probably one of the key things in all aspects on and off the course. It's so important.
Thank you for sharing that, Kalindi. The one thing that I will pick you up on is actually they're not called chapters. They're called practices, interestingly. So with my book, What Makes a Great Coach, I interviewed hundreds of coaches through my podcast. And on the podcast, we ask every guest in 1 to a maximum of 3 words, what makes a great coach? Now, in the end, there was 520 coaches from a huge cross-section of coaches around the world. 328 of those were tennis coaches, 105 business coaches, and 71 sports coaches. We had 17 tennis players, including 7 former world number ones. And we synthesized the data into the top 10 practices. Now, if we look at the top 10 practices, again, it's not necessarily rocket science. However, these are all the skills that when I was a young coach, I didn't really value as much as what I value them now, especially being a corporate coach. Things like decision-making. I'm so passionate. For example, my philosophy in tennis, if you're a red ball kid, 2 decisions, high, low, forehand, backhand, left, right, hitting it soft or hard, for example. Orange ball, 3 decisions. Do you want to rally, attack, or defend? And green ball and yellow ball, open decisions. Hey, what do you think you could do better on that next ball? Decision-making, asking questions comes under curiosity. We've got listening, said by Patrick Mouratoglou, Serena Williams' former coach. Roger Federer said someone who listens. Judy Murray, who wrote the foreword very generously, she said someone who listens. Listening to your player. So important. So the practices are here. And you notice at the end of every section, there is a reflection piece. Okay, so there's reflection questions for you to think about the practice of, in this case, your energy. Your energy introduces you first. Okay, energy was in the top 5 of all the responses. The way that you carry yourself, no matter what's going on in your life as a coach, how do you shut that off and give everything to your player? So it's been an incredible journey. It came out about a year ago. And we hit Amazon #1 during that time. And now it's really, when I go to a conference, doesn't matter if it's a sports, tennis, or business, I love giving away copies. I love people being interested in wanting to grow as a coach. And so I'm super pumped about that. Billy, do you have any questions about my book? Because you haven't read it yet, but I know you're excited.
I now need a copy. I see where I can get it. I'm about to share that with everyone. But that's fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's an awesome achievement. And what a great way to approach it too, with the podcast and the data and yeah. And I've always, I've been a rec player in tennis for about the last 10 years. And one of the things that I always told myself is like, tennis is a lot like life, right? It's not about what just happened. It's about what you're going to do about what just happened. And, the decision making, and like you said, the perseverance, the what comes out of your mouth, the affirmations, you start word cursing yourself, and all of a sudden everything falls apart. And, you look back and you're like, man, wow. And so, it's a great sport. And obviously as a business owner and seeing you influence that community, I mean, I'm really passionate about it. And I can't wait to get my hands on a copy.
Actually, it's so funny because I'm drinking out of this cup, right? So what I think makes a great coach is energy, empathy, and enjoyment. And so, for example, enjoyment didn't necessarily make the top 10 practices. So it doesn't matter whatever you think as a coach, as long as you live and breathe. I live and breathe the E factors, as you can probably tell. It doesn't matter whether I'm on or off a tennis court. So, but if you are listening to this podcast, you're like, oh my goodness, what am I going to get my coach for Christmas besides a kinesthetic training aid and my book? We got these really cool mugs as well. So you can customize these mugs.
Oh, cool. So you can, that's awesome.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Actually,